Let's install Microsoft Windows Server 2008 R2. So in this video on how to install Microsoft Windows Server 2008 R2, we will discuss first the minimum system requirements. We will then compare the various Windows Server editions. We will then proceed with the installation modes as well as the installation proper of Microsoft Windows Server 2008 R2. For the Windows Server 2008 R2 system requirements, it requires a processor, an x64 processor with a minimum 1.4 GHz. For the memory, it requires 512 megabytes of random access memory. For disk space requirements, it requires a minimum of 32 gigabytes. But of course, with computers with more than 60 gigabytes of RAM, it will require more disk space for paging, hibernation, and dump files. For display, it requires only a Super VGA or 800 by 600 resolution. For the Windows Server 2008 R2 editions, so we have Foundation, we have the Standard Edition, we have the Web Edition, we have the High Performance Computing or HPC, Enterprise, Data Center, and Titanium. For the Foundation Edition, it has a maximum RAM of 8 gigabytes and a maximum physical CPU of 1. For the Standard and Web, it has a 32 gigabytes maximum RAM and 4 maximum physical CPUs. For the High Performance Computing HPC edition, it has a 256 gigabytes of maximum RAM and 4 maximum physical CPUs. For Enterprise and Data Center and Titanium, it has 2 terabytes of maximum RAM, and for Enterprise, it has 8 maximum physical CPUs. For Data Center and Titanium, you have 64 maximum physical CPUs. Starting with Windows Server 2008, you can install Windows in one of two modes, both of which are provided on the installation media. So you have full version and server core. The full version is the normal version that you would expect from Windows with a fully functional GUI or graphical user interface. You have the server core installation, which provides a minimal environment with no Windows Explorer shell for running specific server roles and no start button. For our demonstration, so in lieu of a physical machine, so what I have is a virtual machine. I make use of Oracle VM VirtualBox virtualization software. So I have here a VM that is currently configured and ready for installation. As you can see, the virtual machine is prepared with the Microsoft Windows type with a version of Windows 2008 64-bit. If you go to System, it has an assigned 2 gig memory, and the boot order will be the hard disk. So if we go to storage, there is this ISO file that you need to obtain, and this is the virtual image or the virtual hard disk. So the rest of the components are already there, and we'll just leave it as default. So we could now turn on or start this virtual machine so that we could start the installation. All right, if all the settings are in place, so we could click OK to close or to accept the settings, and we could now start this virtual machine for installation. So we'll start this virtual machine. Let's wait for the VM window to launch or open. So you could see it's VirtualBox. So So press any key to boot from the CD. So I press any key to boot from CD or DVD to launch the Windows 2008 installer file. Okay, so we'll wait patiently for the installation to begin. So we are now at the install Windows menu or window. Okay, so for the language to install, so we have only English. For time and currency, so you could select. So for this case, I just select English United States. For keyboard, you could have a different keyboard or input method. So I'll just select US. So it depends on your situation or case. So I click next. So I click install. So click install now. So the setup is starting. So basically the setup is going to ask us for the edition. So this ISO file or this installation. So we have a choice to select which edition that we will be installing or we will install. So in our case, we will just select the Windows Server 2008 R2 standard full installation. So once we have selected our edition, so we'll select the standard full installation edition because we will need the graphical user interface. So I will click next. So we will read the license terms. So after reading, so we will accept the license terms in order to continue with the installation. So we'll check the I accept the license terms and click next. So in our scenario, this is a brand new installation. So we will select the custom or advanced because it will install a new copy of Windows. So I will go ahead and install a new copy of Windows by clicking custom. As you can see, I have a 20 gigabytes of virtual disk space. In reality, you could have a bigger disk space. So what's important is it should be detected by the Windows installation. So I could create a new partition by clicking new. For instance, out from the 20 gigabytes, I will put in 15 gig. So I could write 15360, or I could add 100 MB more because it will allocate a system reserve drive or reserve partition. So I click apply. As you can see, from the 15 gig, it gets 100 megabytes for system reserve partition. So I could create a new partition for this 4.9 gigabytes remaining space by clicking new. I will accept all the remaining size. Okay, so since I would like to install my Windows Server on partition number 2, my first partition, so I will click on it rather than clicking on partition number 3. As you can see also, there is an error or a message that Windows cannot be installed on this 0 partition 3. So perhaps the size is quite low. So I will go ahead and install it on my 15 gig partition. Once the partition is in place and correct, so you will click the next to continue. So as you can see, the Windows installation now commences by copying the files and expanding the installer files. It will install the features, it will install the necessary updates, it will perform some reboot, and then will complete the installation. So it will take some time, but for this virtual machine, okay, it is quite fast. However, it will still take much time for this recording or this demonstration. So I will pause the video or fast forward the video to go or to resume on the nearing of the installation under installation of the updates or features, or it will be installing or completing the installation. Okay, so at this point of time, it is done with expanding files, installing features, and installing updates. It actually did perform or ask for a restart. So I click the restart now or perform a reboot. And after reboot, it did ask for press any key, for example, like this, to boot from CD or DVD. So I will not press any key because it will again redo the installation. Okay, so I'll let the hard disk or the disk or the partition boot since the Windows installer file has already done. Okay, so it's now doing some system preparation, and now we are on the screen wherein we need to change the user password. So this is for the administrator password. So this is one of the new things on Windows Server 2008 R2, wherein after the installation, you will be then asked for a password. So unlike installing Windows 7, wherein during the installation, you are asked to supply the password. So for the Windows Server 2008 R2, so it then finishes or completes the installation. From the installation or after the installation, you are now asked to type in the administrator password. Okay, so let's change the user password by clicking OK. So as you can see, it is for the administrator account. So for password, so I would really require or I would like to think for a password that is secure. So it should be complex enough. So for instance, it should be in combination with uppercase and lowercase and number as well as a symbol. Okay, so but for demonstration purposes, I will type the ever familiar Windows password, which is capital P A $ W0RD. So capital P A $W0RD. So as you can see, it has a combination of uppercase P, lowercase, as well as a number 0 and a dollar sign to have that form of complexity. But of course, please find or please supply a different password other than that. That is only for our demonstration. Okay, so I will click on this arrow to continue. Okay, I will click on this arrow. So changing the password. So your password has been changed. So thank you. So there are no typographical errors with our password. So click OK. So we have this welcome and preparing your desktop for our first login. And there you go. We have now a fresh or new installation of Windows Server 2008 R2. So in this video, install Microsoft Windows Server 2008 R2. So we list the minimum system requirements for a computer to run or install this Windows Server 2008 R2. We also list all the available Windows Server 2008 R2 editions. So we also compare the maximum random access memory and maximum physical CPU that is supported with these various editions. So from there, I did show you the Oracle VirtualBox VM that is prepared for this Windows Server 2008 installation. So I have already the required ISO file. So I then started this VM to launch the installation and proceeded with the Windows Server 2008 installation, which is standard full installation. So I hope you find this video on how to install Microsoft Windows Server 2008 R2 helpful, and you could begin and test in your working environment a computer to install this particular server edition. Thank you for watching.